Hi there. I did a video CV and I'm very thankful for amazing feedback on LinkedIn. So for everyone asked me how I did it, this is especially for you. I will break down my process and hopefully this will be helpful for you. So let's get started. This tutorial will be divided into two parts. First part is about the design and second part is about some technical aspects. So let's start with the design part. Why I did it. I have work experience as a digital artist, beside architecture, and I want to show a future employer or anybody who is interested that this experience honed my design skills and gave me a unique skill set. Show the relevance of motion graphics in architecture, which is rarely used. Show a CV that is interesting to watch by combining it with some project that I did and make it like CV portfolio and the show reel to catch attention and to give a complete picture in minimum time. So I defined my target and it was a motion graphics video about 90 seconds long, give or take. And what about the style? I wanted to make something minimalistic, high-tech, smooth, eye-catchy by using seamless morphing transitions. I started to look for references. I liked these two the most. First one was a promotional video made by Apple. It's very simple yet very well done and eye-catching. And it has these forming lines representing a designer at work, which is fantastic. The second video that I was inspired, it's actually not a video, it was just the beginning of a video, but it really catched my attention. There is this amazing artist, he's called Lorne, and he has a video called Anvil, or something, I don't know how it's pronounced. Anyway, it's an amazing music video, and I like the animation of the title. It's very high-tech and represent future in some way. And I think it's really combinable with the forming line concept. That's why it catch my attention. The color scheme. Two passive contrasty colors with one energetic vivid color to guide viewers' attention and to make accents. The font. Simple, agile, easy to read and fit with the design. I used Mosaic Sans. Transformations from 2D to 3D to emphasize spatial awareness while designing and smoothness in 2D and 3D workflow, which is highly important in architectural design. Start the design. So I broke down my own CV and showed the aspects that I want to highlight. Then I designed the still frames, considering the relationship between the scenes. And of course, the process wasn't this divided. It was more fluid. So while I was animating, I realized that some things don't work and has to be changed, and that's okay. But it's good to set some headlines and define the direction from the beginning. A very important aspect is the consistency of the style. Consistency of colors, sizes, and tempo. Now I will speak about some technical aspects and I will show you how I did some things in the video. It's worth noting though that you have to have some decent background and you just have to know the basic things like transformations and effects and how to apply things and how to change keyframes. I will include some sources in the description. You can check them. I learned Adobe After Effects from these channels and you can watch their videos and you will be impressed how fast you will become better. So I will speak about the beginning, how I did the letter C, this glitchy effect, and how it becomes a circle. And I will speak about the lines, how they intersect and change position. And then I will speak about the globe and how it moves this way and about these effects in general. Then I will show you briefly how I did this part with the languages, with the city skylines. And then I will show you how to do the morphing, how to morph shape into another shape. And I will show you how to make a facade and turn it into 3D or anything like 2D to 3D transformation. And in the end, I will show you briefly how I did this transformation from watercolor plan into 3D Studios Max model. So let's get started with the letter C. Here you can see the glitchy effect that we will try to achieve again. This is the composition open, the read project. You can see it right now. I will isolate the layers that are contributing to this C glitchy effect. And now you can see it in effect. Here how the C becomes a circle. And this is what we will try to do. Let's create a new composition and check the composition properties. All good. Let's make a new solid. Make it gray one. Let's type the letter C. We won't use it actually. This is not very important, but this is as a reference. We will draw it with the shape tool. Here we will draw a circle. It's pretty thick. Let's make it according to the C letter. Let's try to align it. Now we have to make it thicker. This is give or take what we are looking for. Now we will use trim path. Trim path is this effect will be used so much, and this is very crucial to know and to understand. It gives you the option to start a shape layer in a point and end it. Let's say I want to start this shape layer with a 20% of the line and end it with 60%. So you will have 40% of the line. So here you tell him where you want it to start and where you want it to end, and you can animate this. This is very, very useful. I relied on this very much. Yeah, this is good enough. Let's make it white again. Now let's move it. This is very important. Let's change the position through time. And here you can see the graph editor. This is very important to play with the speed through time, to not make it constant. Now let's break it into two parts with mask. Let's duplicate the C layer, Ctrl D. And here you can see the position. Here you can play with the position to make one little bit delayed from the other, which will give you this interesting effect. Yeah, the speed is good. I like it. We can extend the mask a little bit to hide this gap. Now I will make the glitch. The glitch is just a variation in opacity through time. So you see it's like 0, 100, 0, 100, and it gives you this glitch. Especially when applying this with the motion blur, it blends really nicely. So I duplicated the opacity here and there. So you can see it's glitchy. Both of them are glitchy. Let's duplicate them and make the orange ones. I just want to copy the color. Yeah, let's copy it. Paste the color. Now we have to offset it a little bit. So you can see it's like two layers. Now it's just a matter of tweaking and finding the right spot for you. Yeah, here I tried to duplicate the white layer and with less opacity. I thought it would be interesting. It's like a shadow of the main layer. Now I will make this parallel circular lines that goes with the sea, which gives it like the direction of the movement. I will duplicate it too. Ctrl D. Here I will just rename the layers. Do not get confused through the way. Here, linking these circles to the main circle is important, so they can take acceleration from it. And here we have to animate them, of course, with the trim path. Here, if we offset the beginning and the end, we will have this effect. You see, this effect is what I'm going for, but this is pretty fast. I want it to be a little bit slower. And let's open the graph editor and make it more interesting. F9 is for smoothing the keyframe. We have to offset it a little bit, and that's it. Yeah, it's a matter of tweaking. If you know how to do a trim path, glitch, and you know how to use the graph editor with the transformation, positioning, and scaling, that's it. It's pretty essential. It's just about tweaking and duplicating the layers and finding this nice coordination. Now let's make an outer circle. Let's reduce the thickness of the lines a little bit. Now, in order to transform the C into circle, we need just one C. So I have to duplicate one layer of them and hide everything else. The main idea is to hide the circles that we don't need, and at the same time to make the circle that we need appear. You just need to duplicate the opacity keyframes and reverse them at the same time, so you won't notice the transformation. Now you can't see, one of them is disappearing and one of them is appearing, but you can't see this. This is because it's at the same frame. The first one disappears, the second one appears. And this is the idea. This is how you merge between scenes that they are not in the same composition. You just make the first composition disappear and the second one appear at the same moment. And now you can continue working easily with this circle. Now I will animate the size, I will animate the trim path, of course, the position, and the stroke width. Let's make it a bit more interesting, the movement. At this time, we have to animate the stroke and we have to animate the trim path. We animated the stroke, and here we animate the rotation a little bit too. It gives it more interesting movement if we animate the rotation. Let's remove the things that we are not animating. And let's smooth the keyframes. And here you have it. So let's do the lines that are going from corner to corner, the dashed lines. Let's draw them. Okay, let's draw them with the pen tool. Holding shift, you can draw perpendicular lines, horizontal or vertical lines. Let's use the trim path. And let's set the end as 100 and the beginning as 0. And using the graph editor, let's make the movement more smooth through time. And let's duplicate the keyframe to the other line. Now let's go to the stroke. And here you can make it a dashed line. Let's raise the gap and make it dashed. Duplicate it here by copying and pasting it. Now we have two dashed lines appearing in the corner. Now let's draw the circle. And let's fill it with the same color as the background so it can hide the lines. Now let's animate the scale of the circle. Go to the graph editor and make it smooth as always. This process is very frequent going to the graph editor, so it's very important to understand how to work with it. Now we can see it's appearing when the lines are intersecting. Now let's animate everything to the other corner. Let's set the position. This is too fast. Let's make it slower and smoother. And that's it. Here you have it. Now let's recreate this globe. And this globe is shapes and maps in a composition. And outside we have to apply a CC sphere effect. You can see it here. This is the composition without it, and this is with it. So let's create a new composition. I copied this vector world map, and let's turn it into shape layers. You can find this map in the description. So let's duplicate it and isolate the countries of interest, the countries that you visited or you want to highlight, and delete other countries. And isolate every one of them into one layer by deleting the others. Renaming. So now we have outlines of the countries. We want to fill them with a color. So I chose this orange. Let's copy it and paste it on the other countries as well. Now let's animate the opacity of every country. It's a bit slow. So now I just deleted the stroke. Let's draw the path. So this path has to be a little bit thicker, and I want it to be dashed. Let's go to the stroke options, and here we can make it dashed. Let's tweak the properties to get the effect. And of course, we will use the tempo, as always. Let's animate it from 0 to 100. And the start from 0 to 102. But we have to offset it. By offsetting it, it will give you this effect. Let's make it faster. This is tweaking. Of course, it's always about tweaking. I want to isolate just Syria and Russia because this is just an example. I won't make all of them. So after the line comes to Russia, it has to be highlighted. This chronological order we have to observe. So now I will duplicate the world map to use it as an alpha channel. Let's create a new solid and make it invisible behind alpha. Let's reduce the opacity. Let's create new solid for the grid. And of course, I'm using this plugin from Video Copilot. It's called FX Concept to get shortcuts, but you can type grid in the effects, it's the same. So let's tweak, let's play with the properties of the grid, and let's make it invisible behind alpha. Let's pre-compose, Ctrl-Shift-C, and apply the sphere effect. So it gives you this shading, which I don't want. Make the ambient 100, diffuse 0, metal 0. And you have to make it render just outside. Here you go. Now we can see this sphere effect starting to work. Let's scale it up. Now let's make it enter the frame. So let's make the action begins after it enters the frame. This is the idea. It will enter the frame, then the animation will begin. And this is what we want. Now let's make it rotating while entering. This is much more interesting and alive. Now we have to make the destination the center of attention. So we have to rotate it again. And by applying this mild rotation while nothing is happening, it becomes more alive and more planet-like. After we get what we want, we will make the transition between the globe and the text. It's the transition between the globe and the language part. So I created the null. So the null will control the movement. And the globe itself will scale down. So now we have to make it feel 3D. This is not 3D. This is fake 3D. So we have to spend some time tweaking it and make it feel like it's falling and going up. Now I'm just trying to find the best movement possible to make it believable that it's like 3D. This works for now, I think. So I will duplicate it. And here we have to duplicate the source too, because if we change the composition from inside, it will change for both of compositions. You have to duplicate it in the source too. So let's delete everything and make it completely white. So now you see, we don't want this, of course. I will make one of them disappear while the second is appearing. Let's push it a little bit. So yeah, this is what I'm going for. Let's make it a little bit smaller in the end. Yeah, this is more like it. This is the shape that we will draw in the end of the path that will appear exactly after the globe reach its final destination. We will animate it with trim path. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. It should look seamless. We can duplicate this line into two lines and push it in the side. That's it. And then animate it out with trim path. Let's make the movement more smooth. This is how the text will appear. Let's hide the globe. Let's create a text layer and type anything for now. We have to create a mask that corresponds with these two lines. So let's animate the mask. Let's make the text invisible before this point so we don't see any edge or something. So yeah, this is in principle what I was going for. Now let's create the line that is the base for the city skyline in the next scene. Let's draw to the pen tool. It should be a little bit longer so we can animate it in with trim path. So let's make it 0 to 100 first. And the start should be trimmed a little bit. Yeah, let's tweak it. Let's make it more smooth. And let's do the line. Let's do the line below it. The line below it is a little bit opaque. And it was a rectangle in the beginning. So again, with the trim path, let's shorten it and make it a rectangle. Almost. And let's make it glitch. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, the proportions are not right, but the techniques used are exactly the same. And that's it. Let's take a look on what we created. The globe. Then it goes to the next scene. You have just to make it fit your needs. So now let's take about my favorite part, which is the languages. I drew these skylines myself. I just relied on photos of them or illustration I pulled from the internet. I will go into the Arabic here, and you can see I drew these buildings using shape layers and pen tool. Then I parented every group, which is a building, to a node. And I moved this node. I put everything behind this gray rectangle, which is the same color as the background, and they appeared chronologically according to the flying globe. So it's pretty simple. You have to redraw them, parent every group to a node, and hide all of them behind a gray rectangle, and make them appear one after another. And that's it. And now let's make the morphing animation. Essentially, you can morph anything you want into anything you want, but you have to find the point of intersection between the two shapes. So here we will morph between a circle and a rectangle. Here we will use the rounded rectangle tool to achieve this effect. Let's draw it and make it dashed. And let's fill it with the color of the background. Let's duplicate it and make it smaller to make it represent the entrance. This is like an analytical architectural plan. Let's make them scale up and make the scale smooth. This is too slow. We can make it faster by dragging the keyframes closer together. Now we will duplicate the circle and we will draw the orange shade of the sun on the side of the building, which will represent the side that will be exposed to the sunlight. And let's draw a shape layer above the orange circle, which will determine which part of it will be shown. Let's make it just a stroke for now so we can see what we are doing. Let's align it with the circle. And let's make it rotate around the center of the circle. The shape has to change during its rotation, so we will put a keyframe in the middle and make it a little bit bigger. And now we have to make the orange circle appear just behind the alpha. Now let's make the circle back to a rectangle. And we can do this by reducing the roundness to 0. And let's make this transition smooth. And let's remove the dashes, of course. Let's animate the stroke and remove the dashes. Now this is very important. Let's select all the keyframes and smooth them together. So all properties react accordingly. Stroke and roundness and position at the same speed. Now let's draw the outside wall, which is a thick stroke shape layer. And let's animate it using a trim path. Oh, this is way too fast. And let's open a door in it by using a mask. Now let's invert the mask, make it subtract. And that's it. Circle to a rectangle. Now let's do the 2D 3D transformation from a facade to a 3D building. And of course we will simplify it so it won't take too long. Here we are copying the background. First, of course, we need a camera because this is a 3D scene. A rectangle, which has to be a rectangle like 500 by 500 pixels. And let's make the composition size the same. You will see now why. Let's make the layer 3D. Using the snapping, you can put the anchor point to a vertex in the corner. And let's do this. And now let's rotate a layer by 90 degrees and change the anchor point. And let's do it again. And this is how I created the house. Of course, this is fake 3D. It's not real because you are just rotating 2D layers. So there is no thickness. But it does its job in this context. Here I use the repeater. You can make copies of shapes or elements with a determined dimensions between these copies. Now we have this open box. We can close it, of course. If you want to change what's inside the composition, you have to duplicate it in the source. Because if you don't, you will change all of them together. So now we did one of them with an orange color. Let's reset the camera. Let's parent all the layers to the null. And let's move the null from below. Let's make a gray layer to hide the box behind it. You can hide the box using different methods, but this is the most easy. You can see that the box is open. We have to duplicate one of the layers and rotate it. Yeah, that seems right. So yeah, this is how we get simple rectangle. Then we have to animate the camera, the point of interest and the position through time. Typing C, you get this camera shortcut. It's a bit similar to 3ds Max, but not exactly. And of course, you can make much more complicated movement with the camera, but this is just to show you the principle of it. And now let's talk about the transformation from this 2D watercolor plan to the wireframe building to the 3D model. This is a very custom approach which will differ hugely between different projects. And that's why I will talk generally about it, not in detail. Here we have the composition that contains the plan. Here you can see the layer that I used to animate in everything, the colors. I got it from YouTube. It's watercolor splash. So here I just put the paint splash layer above the desired layer, and I hide it by using this option here. It's called Luma Matte. Here you can see the Photoshop file, which I did. I divided everything that has to be animated independently to one layer. So you see here there is a layer for the grass, a layer for the swimming pool, a layer for the tiles, layer for the trees, and etc. And above every layer of these, I used this paint splash effect. How to import a Photoshop file properly. You go to the Photoshop file location and you see here import as composition retain layer sizes. Of course, I have it already. So this is what I have to say about the plan. Here I animated the camera. I made it from the top view to a perspective view. I changed the zoom and the orientation, the position and the point of interest. And here I used Element 3D by Video Copilot to import the OBJ file, which is the wireframe building. Here you can see the wireframe building. I did previously on 3ds Max. You go to import 3D object, go to the file location. Here you can see the files that are supported. OBJ is the easiest link between 3ds Max and After Effects through Element 3D. So here we can export. This is how you export it from 3ds Max. And then you can import it from the import panel in Element 3D. Now let's see the channels that I used to compose this picture. I rendered them from 3ds Max. Here you see an extra text channel, Z-depth channel, another extra text channel, and of course RGB channel. You can use a lot of things. This is what I use mainly. And now let's talk about the layers that this photo is composed from. Let's go inside the composition. Here you can see every single layer is one effect, and you can animate them through time. This is exactly the same procedures that we do when doing post-production with Photoshop. The main difference is that here you can animate these properties through time. So you see here every single layer, one of them is fog, one of them is the forest, one of them is the reflection on the glass, and you can animate this, and you can animate the clouds, and you can make like masks on the swimming pool to make it a little bit moving. There's a great tutorial on YouTube about moving a still render, which I learned most of these techniques from it. I will include it in the description. Please check it. Thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful. Please be patient and watch a lot of tutorials, and you will get the results that you are looking for.